I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of the East Lansing City Council for Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Altman.
Here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Watson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh.
Here.
Mayor Brookover.
Here. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the following changes. To change the date in 3.3 to May 16th, and to remove 4.3 and renumber 4.4 to 4.3. Both of those items were requested by the person who was appealing or the staff. So.
All right, let me make sure I understand. So the first thing you would do is in item 3.3 under the consent agenda, you would change the date to May 16th, 2024 from April 16th, 2024. Is that correct?
May 14th?
Yes, please.
May 14th, sorry.
All right, so it's now May 14th on 3.3, and you wanted to delete something else?
And then it was to remove 4.4 at staff's request and to renumber, 4.3 at staff's request and to renumber 4.4 as 4.3.
Okay, is there a second? Go ahead.
Did I miss a message about the staff request for that mobile food vending?
It was just verbally told to me this evening.
Okay, and will we see it again sometime soon?
Yeah,
or
it's coming
okay.
back.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Second.
Do we have a second? All right. Motion by Meadows, second by Watson. Is there discussion?
I have an amendment I'd like to make. I'd like to remove item 3.2 to the business agenda.
I'm sorry, item 3.2 from the consent agenda
To the business
to
agenda.
the business agenda?
That's not a change to the agenda though, right?
I believe it's not. I think that under our procedures, any member can ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda to the business agenda.
Okay, the chair will recognize the request to remove item 3.2 from the consent agenda and will now renumber it as item 4.4 in the business agenda. The chair having recognized the request, we're back to the main motion with the amendments stated. Is there any further discussion on the main motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We have minutes before us for the regular council meeting of March 5th, 2024, and the city council discussion only meeting of March 12th, 2024. Do we have a motion?
Move approval of both.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Meadows, seconded by Altman. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion to approve the minutes passes unanimously. Communications from the audience, communications 2.1 is written communications received by council or posted on the online agenda packet. Communications from the audience, I have two slips. Sarah, is it Abend? Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Sarah Abend. I've been a resident of East Lansing for almost 2 years. I live at Hillcrest Village Apartment Complex off of Grand River on the west side of East Lansing near Frandor. I'm a lifelong resident of Michigan, and I've also resided in Detroit, Metro Detroit, and Northwest Michigan in the greater Traverse City area. I'd like to give you a little bit of my background before I explain the issue I'm bringing before you today. I'm a degree-holding fine artist, designer, small business owner, freelancer, and former highly qualified certified K-12 art teacher. I'm someone who cares deeply about community, people, and planet. Professionally as an artist, I've exhibited my brand and jewelry line at the East Lansing Art Festival in 2022 and 2023. I've exhibited at various art markets throughout the Midwest, including the Ann Arbor Art Fair, where I have received several awards, including Best New Artist. I love living in East Lansing. I feel safe. I love my walkable proximity to campus, downtown, and the Frandor area. In summer of 2020, at the height of pandemic, I moved from Midtown Detroit, just blocks away from the Detroit Institute of Arts, to Lansing. In Detroit, I was isolated and concerned about the future of my business, and with so much uncertainty, I was concerned about being able to afford living in the Detroit area any further. The cost of housing was continuously rising previous to pandemic, so I sought out an area with a lower cost of living. Therefore, here I am. I come before you today to shed light on a pressing issue facing my community at Hillcrest Village. Our property was recently sold to Peak Management, who owns several properties throughout the state. As some of us are coming up on renewal dates for our leases, we are discovering that rent is being increased 10 to 20%. I received an invitation to renew mine, and it's increasing 17%. My rate is going from $860 to $1,005 per month. I know that sounds affordable compared to many rates in the city, but based on my circumstances, that's not affordable to me. One of the biggest concerns is that this increase is going to unhouse people. We have residents that have lived at Hillcrest for over 10 years. Many senior citizens, people on fixed incomes, families with children that go to East Lansing schools, and younger professionals like myself doing their best to contribute to a vibrant community. I know it's well within a landowner's rights to charge whatever they want, but that doesn't make it okay. There is no protection for people under our circumstances. I bring this before you today, if for no other reason than to raise the issue and start a conversation amongst yourselves and with the community regarding what the city can do to help residents maintain their homes as to not have their lives majorly disrupted. What legislation can council participate in or advocate for, like House Bill 4947, which would allow local governments to establish rent control policies? It's no secret that our nation has been experiencing an affordable housing crisis for some time. But just in case you're not familiar, allow me to bring you up to speed. This crisis is not merely a statistic, it's a harsh reality affecting millions of Americans across the country. Let's talk numbers. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, NLIHC, there is a shortage of over 7 million affordable and available rental homes for extremely low-income households in the United States. That's 7 million families struggling to find a place they can afford to call home. But it's not just about availability, it's also about affordability. The Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies reports that nearly half of all renters in the United States are cost-burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of income on housing. For many, it's much higher, with over a quarter of renters paying more than half of their income towards housing. These statistics paint a grim picture of the reality facing far too many of our fellow citizens. Families are forced to make impossible choices between paying the rent, putting food on the table, between keeping a roof over their heads, and accessing vital healthcare services. The consequences of this crisis are far-reaching. It exacerbates poverty, contributes to homelessness, and perpetuates cycles of inequality. It affects our economy, our health, and our collective well-being as a society. I'd love to stay in East Lansing for the time being. I want to live in a community where I feel like my local government is here to protect all residents, not just those who fall under certain incomes. Everyone deserves a safe, decent, and affordable place to call home. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Dr. Edsel? Thanks.
Good evening. Kath Etzel, 1026 Daisy Lane. I am the co-chair of the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission. Last week, the chair of the LAPOC read a memo which outlined LAPOC's position on suggested revisions to the Police Oversight Ordinance 1503. Since then, it seems like there's confusion as to what LAPOC is asking. I wanted to try to simplify it by addressing our concerns as they are written on the revision document that I just handed you. If you'll all turn to page 2, under section 2-472 purpose, So like the first section there. LAPOC is asking you to remove the entire revision marked in red. Turn to page 6, section 2.485, parens A. In the last clause that begins, but shall not make any ... LAPOC would like the word recommendations changed to determinations. On page 14, section 2-493, parens I, this is a new clause, and LAPOC would like the word recommendation changed to determination. That's it. One clause and 2 words. The reasons for these changes are written in the memo that was sent from the chair and that he read last week. While the memo does not cite Proposal 21 from the police union contract, LAPOC's concerns about free speech are legitimate, as evidenced by the proposal that demonstrates a clear desire to silence the commissioners of LAPOC. Furthermore, LAPOC is not and should not be an advisory commission. This is a title given to only one other commission, I believe. LAPOC already has very, very limited powers. Reducing those powers further does not align with the stated purpose of the commission. If this council does not desire real change, then be completely transparent and dismantle the commission. In addition to the ordinance revisions above that I've mentioned, the memo has a section requesting you consider 3 new amendments at this time. In short, LAPOC would, in keeping with the need to have social workers and/or psychologists on the commission, like to open this up to individuals who have previously worked in the field but who are not currently licensed, as well as social scientists. This just increases the size of the pool and provides us with people with those skill sets. Furthermore, LAPOC requests that the ordinance clearly state that these mandated social work positions do not limit the ability to appoint 2 non-residents to the remaining positions, as had been the practice in the first 2 years of the commission's existence. Second, LAPOC requests that the annual LAPOC budget include independent legal counsel in the event that it is a need. Third, LAPOC requests that ELPD reply to LAPOC's recommendations in writing within 60 days. That's the summary of what we're asking for. The reasoning for those recommendations are in the memo. However, any of us would gladly answer any questions, especially the chair, Mr. Connerly, and myself. We are meeting tomorrow night in a special meeting in hopes of getting greater understanding from the labor attorney and the city attorney about these revisions, but would gladly answer any other questions from everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Sardar?
Good evening. I'm here today once again to request the council to pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. With every passing day, hundreds of lives are being lost, not just due to bombing, but now due to famine, as Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war. Just a few weeks ago, Defense Secretary Austin said in a hearing at the Capitol Hill that of the then 31,000 people that were killed in Gaza, over 25,000 of them were women and children. Palestinian children are being massacred as they stand in line for food that is being distributed, including flour that is being sent as part of US aid. The last massacre now being known as the Flour Massacre. We are heartbroken over the loss of these lives and disappointed that the city is unable to pass a ceasefire resolution. Several major cities across Michigan, from Traverse City in the west to Detroit in the southeast, have passed a ceasefire resolution because they listen to their citizens and they all believe that government starts local. So I hope you will consider the letter that your own Human Rights Commission wrote to you about a month ago, requesting you to revisit the resolution that the HRC adopted, or you can work with the HRC to draft a new one, or you can draft one of your own. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. That's all the slips I have for the audience. Anybody online?
We have a caller in the queue.
Please.
Caller with the number ending 797, you're welcome to address council. Caller, you may need to unmute your phone.
Hi, members. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Hello, members of council. My name is Jimmy Gilman, and I'm a government partnerships manager at SPIN. I sent an email to council today in the form of public comment, but also wanted to follow up and make comment live at the meeting today. What I want to discuss is we at SPIN recently conducted a survey of our e-scooter riders in the greater Lansing area, and we received a really strong response rate among our regular users. Among other results, about 87% of respondents indicated it would be more difficult to access East Lansing businesses without the availability of SPIN. Furthermore, more than half did not have access to a car. Equally, more than half preferred using SPIN compared to trying to find car parking in the city of East Lansing. I wanted to bring this to your attention to show that there still exists strong support among residents in the community for SPIN scooters as a mode of transportation that's available and as a mode that bolsters both individual access and particularly access to local businesses. I attached a full summary of the survey that we conducted in the email that I sent to council in case any members would like it to look into the full results. Furthermore, SPIN and myself specifically would be excited to have follow-up discussions with any members of council and or city staff regarding changes that could be made to the program to make it viable moving forward, including restricting the service area to focus on business access and to keep the downtown vibrant, modifying any of the geo features such as no park zones, no ride zones or parking points that we have as part of the system, and altering any other elements of our operational strategy. With that, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a good evening.
Thank you. Anybody else in the queue?
There are no other callers in the queue.
Okay, moving ahead to communications from the mayor and council members. Ms. Watson.
I was wondering who you're going to pick today. I wanted to thank the person who came forward to talk about Hillcrest Apartments, and we discussed when our lobbyist was here last week about the lobbying and the House bills, and at that time we were discussing the overlay districts, and just again to re-mention that we definitely should be fighting for our renters as much as we fight for our homeowners. And typically, your rent is supposed to be 30%, as the speaker had said, it's supposed to be 30%, your rent or your mortgage, or it's deemed unaffordable, or like she was saying, cost burden. And so that's sad, and it's putting profits over people. And another group is rent is too damn high, that has conversations with us. And so I hope to continue to advocate for our renters as well in this community. Thank you to Thason for coming forward again. I also wanted to add that the Ingham County Democrats passed a ceasefire resolution, which was beautiful to see. And also something sad to hear was children and families are eating animal meal in Gaza because they do not have access to food, because we need a ceasefire and people need to be safe. And I sent an email. It was kind of late in the day. It was kind of late in the transition day, but just some questions that I'll be asking again when we talk about the agenda items. And it has to do with I'm trying to follow the process of the ordinance change for each of the commissions, and there's just a different ordinance change pattern from LEPOC in comparison to the Youth Commission, and even if you bring in the Historic District Commission. And so I'm just looking, I sent an email, we'll just talk about it some more just when we get to the agenda item, so I can be clear on what's happening and make sure that we're following procedures fairly as we should be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of brief updates. One, wanted to highlight that the University Student Commission, they're going to be sending out a survey to get more input in terms of issues they should continue working on moving forward. Keep in mind there's a new set of folks that come in the fall, so it poses a kind of a timing issue. So I wanted to reference that. And then also the Library Board of Trustees will be meeting tomorrow And Kevin King, the new library director, is on his second week on the job, so off and running for those that attend events or are interested in meeting the new library director. He is 2 weeks under his belt. So with that, I'll conclude my comments this evening.
Thank you. Dr. Altman.
Thank you, Mayor. Some updates from the Commission on the Environment, which met last night. They moved to recommend a letter to our attention, also to the attention of the Parks and Rec Commission concerning No Mow May. So that is coming our way at some point in the future, and we will want to think about how and whether to do that again. The letter will be supportive. And the other thing that the COE has been talking about is leaf blowers, and this is something that came to our attention early on in our term. It's something that Councilmember Watson and I touched base on once or twice. There's sort of a steady trickle of prompts that have come in from the community about leaf blowers. They are noisy and they are smelly to an extent that people really seem to be bothered by them. And there is interest in the Commission in investigating possible policy changes and regulations, including but not limited to an awareness campaign and a possible rebate program, which is actually already being undertaken by Board of Water and Light, so we don't have to do it, and then possible regulation. And on that front, we have the option, I guess, to follow the lead of other jurisdictions in Michigan that have gradually phased out small off-road engines, or SOARs, as they are known. They're not just leaf blowers, but they're also mowers. COE asked for help from the Graham Sustainability Institute, and an intern there put together a nice report that described some options that are available to us. And I suggested at the meeting last night that we were at a point in the discussions that it would be helpful to see if there were interest at the council level in having a discussion about this issue. And so I wanted to float the question of whether we might want to have this on a discussion-only agenda at some point in the future. I think there's enough material for us to go on and decide whether we want to pursue one of any number of possible actions. So what I will request is that at some point in the future we have this on a discussion-only agenda, and then I'll leave it to the city manager to contact the staff liaison of the Commission on the Environment to see what sort of materials are available.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Meadows.
Yeah, I'll just make two short comments here. You know, we took a look at rent control back when I was first elected to council, and in 1988, the legislature had removed our ability to actually do it. There is a bill now to actually give us authority again is a great thing. I don't know if we will take as a city, you know, some stand on that, but, you know, personally, I'm urging my legislators to support this. And with the same type of response, I just want to note that, you know, regardless of whether we have a resolution urging a ceasefire in the Middle East, the end of violence in the Middle East is something that I think we all are supporting and hoping for, and are taking a little bit of comfort in the fact that it looks like the national government has sort of changed the way that they've approached this and are actively pursuing trying to broker that ceasefire out there.
Okay, I have nothing to add to the discourse tonight. City manager's report?
I have nothing tonight.
City attorney's report?
I have nothing to add this evening, thank you.
Okay, we then move to the consent agenda, and just to remind the group, item 3.2 on the original agenda has been dropped down to the business agenda. So therefore, the consent agenda includes item 3.1, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6. Mr. City Manager, would you like to read those, please?
Actually, I thought you were going to, but I will.
No,
Thank you.
I don't do that.
So the 5 items on tonight's consent agenda includes, as you mentioned, 3.1, approve the following appointments or reappointments to boards and commissions. Appoint Elinor Holbrook to the Arts Commission for a full term ending December 31st, 2026. and appoint Cara Ronk to the Arts Commission for a partial term ending December 31st, 2025. 3.3 is set a date of May 14th, 2024 for a public hearing by City Council to consider an appeal of a Planning Commission denial of a request to remove a total of 27 trees from the property at 120 West Saginaw Street. The request is from Larry Viles on behalf of George F. Ide Family LLC. 3.4 is set a date of April 16, 2024 for a public hearing to consider a request to construct a single-story, multi-tenant retail building with drive-through window and parking lot at 210, 218, and 224 West Lake Lansing Road. 3.5 is approve a resolution acknowledging the 50th anniversary of the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program and recognizing April 1st through the 5th, 2024 as National Community Development Week. 3.6, approve a contract with G Farms Nursery and Greenhouse LLC for the annual street tree planting contract, an amount not to exceed $70,000, and authorize the city manager to sign. That's your consent agenda.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Altman, seconded by Meadows. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Mayor, I heard him read out loud April 16th again. I don't know if that matters or not. Okay. So.
Yeah, I think it's May 14th.
Yeah, May 14th.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councilwoman Watson. So
Just that friendly amendment, or?
can we consider that a friendly amendment?
There are two April 16ths on here.
Oh, okay.
There is one for
Okay.
item 3.3, which is the one that was amended successfully. And then there's another one in 3.4, which may be correct.
I think 3.4 is correct. The question is, did you read May 14th, 2024 on 3.3?
I did, yes.
You did,
Okay,
okay.
great.
Yep.
Sorry about
Thanks
that.
for the catch, though.
You're welcome.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. Business agenda, item 4.1, second reading and approval of ordinance 1533, amendments to the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission ordinance. Before we get to a motion, are there questions on this?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
First question was our process for this ordinance amendment.
Yeah,
I think, did you respond?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there are many reasons that we potentially will change the ordinance related to commissions. And so it can be changes in regulation or state law that require our ordinance to be amended to be consistent. It can also be a request by the commission if they, want to change what their purview is or something of that nature, their makeup, their composition. Or it can be, in this circumstance, as it relates to business agenda item 4.1, just pending litigation and some concerns where we feel it's necessary to best protect the interests of the city by making those amendments. And Gary Sachtal from Keller Toma will get into the detail when we get to that level.
And so it says second reading. What does that mean? Is there a third reading? Is there a final reading?
Sure. So under our charter and under state law, we're required to do a first reading, and then there's an adoption at second reading. And so what we've been trying to do consistently is put the first reading on the consent agenda and then have the second reading so that we have discussion on it on the business agenda prior to adoption. And the way that the charter and the state law set it up is that we can make changes between the first and second reading. So if there were requests to make changes at that adoption time, we are allowed to do so.
Other questions? Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Meadows moves approval of ordinance 1533, amendments to the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission ordinance as attached to the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Altman. Discussion. I think we may have some questions for Labor Council, please. Maybe synopsize for us your prior comments.
Sure. As I stated at the last council meeting, the city is currently involved in a litigation matter with the Capital City Labor Program non-supervisory police unit relating to a proposal that that union made in our last round of bargaining in 2021 concerning the Police Oversight Commission. As a result of the dispute between the city and the union regarding whether the subject of the Police Oversight Commission is a mandatory subject of bargaining, the city filed an unfair labor practice charge against the union in August of 2022. And that matter has been pending for some time, obviously. About 6 weeks ago now, the ALJ in that ULP matter contacted the parties and advised that, in his view, the crux of the issue, or at least one of the main issues in dispute, was whether or not the Oversight Commission has any sort of role in the disciplinary process of ELPD employees. That being a mandatory subject of bargaining if it does. And because the ordinance does not clearly prohibit the commission from making disciplinary recommendations or being involved in the disciplinary process, the question of whether or not the commission had a role in that process was open for interpretation in the ALJ's eyes, and something he felt could be and should be resolved by way of an ordinance amendment to resolve the issue once and for all. And that was the purpose of those amendments, was to clean up what is something that's already happening in practice. We during the ULP hearing had testimony that the commission is not involved in discipline. They do not make recommendations. They do not receive information about discipline. But to the extent that the ordinance does not make that clear, these amendments would make that clear and would essentially codify what's already happening in practice. And that was the purpose of the amendments, is to resolve and hopefully strengthen the city's position in that ULP matter.
Go ahead. Questions?
I've got just a couple. Would you take a look at, I think it was a proposal that Ms. Edsel had mentioned to change the word recommendations to determinations in 2.485A and 2.493I. Do you have any comments on that?
I do. I want to be careful and not share too much of my thoughts without impacting the city's position in the ULP matter, but I will say that the word recommendation was chosen specifically in the amendments based on the discussion we had with the ALJ and the concerns that were raised by the union in the hearing, and based on the case law at Merck regarding the role of bodies that have authority to make recommendations regarding discipline.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Dana?
So the edits were your edits?
Those were my recommendations.
Based on what was,
Yes.
what was said?
Yes.
And I have one question for Mr. Bellman, because we had spoken and I did not attend all of ELIPOC, and that is, was there a vote or consensus on the changes that were sent by the chair? Were you able to, I don't know if you were able to get that.
When I looked at their meeting minutes, it did not clearly indicate a vote was made on the memo that was shared under public comment and then sent to you today. Meeting minutes indicated there was a vote to call a special meeting, and that is scheduled for tomorrow, I believe, at 5:30.
Mm-hmm. And the purpose of the special meeting was?
To meet with Labor Council and City Attorney to discuss some of the concerns that they've shared, I believe, in the memo, and to understand the changes that were being made here tonight.
Okay, so you're thinking that LEPOC understood that today is it? Yeah.
Are you asking me that question?
Anyone? Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so I also believe their motion was to ask you to postpone tonight's actions, but they understood that today you were taking up the second reading.
Okay, all right. What are your thoughts on, okay, I guess in general, is there something, is a change recommendation that we've received from an LEPOC member, are you on board with any of those changes? Or do you have a defense for why it should remain how it is and we shouldn't consider any of their changes?
Regarding the objections to the recommendations I had made, or the changes I am recommending in the ordinance, my position is the same as what I just said. Those were all the product of some deliberation and discussion with the ALJ, and based on the city's position in the ULP matter. Regarding the other three proposed changes, I do not have a position on those, other than I do not believe it is in the city's best interest to delay voting on this amendment. But if the city wanted to take up these other amendments at some other time, I don't
certainly
have
do that.
a position on them.
People are worried about their freedom of speech being blocked on the commission, which is something that occurred to me as well. And so can you help us understand how your changes don't block their freedom of speech, where we're not looking at a situation where people have been set up?
I am not, in my opinion, the changes only affect what the commission as a body can do. If individual commission members want to speak on their own behalf, I don't see how those changes would impact their ability to do so. My only concern is that the body, when it acts as a body, that it confine itself to the responsibilities and the powers that have been given to it under the ordinance and under these amendments.
Thank you. I do recall that, it was a huge issue, and there was even a public letter that might have mentioned it, but it was an issue because a commissioner had mentioned possibly letting a police officer go. And so are you saying, our commission as a body did not say that, but someone did express that, so are you saying we're not setting folks up into a situation where their free speech is going to be problematic?
I'm not sure who would be the challenger to their free speech. So I don't really know how to answer that question, because I'm not sure who would be limiting them or prohibiting them or challenging them if they did express their views on whatever it is they wanted to express their views on. The concern that was expressed by the union, and that was sort of at the heart of the ULP matter, is that the lack of clarity in the ordinance regarding the commission's role on discipline, combined with comments by individual commission members, left open the question of whether or not the commission had authority to discipline or not. With these amendments, that vagueness has been removed, meaning that to the extent that the union wanted to challenge, and again, I don't know how they could challenge the free speech rights of commission members, but to the extent they wanted to in an appropriate forum, the city's position would be then that it's the body that acts and not individual commission members.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Altman?
A question about the new text in 2-472, the purpose statement, and this is a pretty minor question. It starts off by saying it is recognized that. Who's doing the recognizing?
The city, who is ordaining that ordinance, I would
Can
imagine.
that sentence just start, the commission's role is advisory?
That is fine.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, I want to say this for the record. I'm going to vote in favor of this motion without any changes for the following reasons. First, we have a collective bargaining situation here in which the unions, any union, whether it's a police, fire union, or any other union, has the right to negotiate for wages, hours, and working conditions. That's what I learned years ago, and I think that's still the law in Michigan. Secondly, I think I have a fiduciary duty to the city to, when possible, steer the city out of potential litigation. Number three, and I want to just say this, I have considered the suggested changes from at least some of the members of LEPOC, and nothing we're doing tonight militates against the possibility of looking at other possible amendments to this ordinance in the future. But fourth, more important to me, I believe there should be a police oversight commission. I believe it's a necessary thing to do. But I also do not want the state of Michigan to tell us that we now have to negotiate with the police unions, with all due respect to them, about how our police oversight commission operates or doesn't operate. And so frankly, I think this is a situation where, to those who don't want these kind of changes or oppose them, it's be careful what you ask for. Because my concern is, if we don't make these changes, and I take seriously my fiduciary duty to the city, then I think there's a reasonable possibility that there will be a decision, an unfair labor practice decision. It may not be right, but there's a reasonable possibility that there'll be an unfair labor practice decision that will then say that the union is right and we must now negotiate about the involvement, for want of better terminology, of the Police Oversight Commission in the whole collective bargaining process. I don't want that. I don't think that's good for the city. I think the Police Oversight Commission can still do its work. And so for those reasons, that's why I'm going to vote for this without any changes tonight. Any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to move an amendment in section 2-472. I'd like to move to strike the words, "it is recognized that," and capitalize the word "the" that follows.
Support.
Okay, that's an amendment to the motion? Okay, so any discussion on the amendment?
I wanted to say some things.
Please go ahead. Well, relative to the amendment, or,
Just overall. So,
well, let's do the amendment
Sure.
first, and then we can move to the overall. So any discussion on the amendment? I'm going to vote against the amendment. I just don't feel like constructing this and trying to change this when our attorneys have looked at this in the past. So I don't want to start doing this at this point in time. So I'll vote against the amendment. Any other discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, I would just add that this actually, the wording as it stands creates an ambiguity, because it's a passive construction and it's not clear who's doing the recognizing, whether it's the city or the city council or somebody else.
I understand your linguistic argument. Any other discussion on the amendment? Do we need a roll call on this one?
We probably should, yes.
Okay, roll call vote on the amendment.
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
no.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Brookover.
No. Okay, the amendment passes. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. Councilmember Watson, you had some further discussion?
I just wanted to say, everything sunk in today that the suggestions were more than suggestions that were made on the changes. And it's unfortunate that everything happened as fast as it did, and that people needed time to process, the commission needed time to process how they were feeling, and then talk about the changes. And we had a missed opportunity for the commission's opportunity to weigh in on this commission and the changes, as well as your presence, which I know that you're coming now tomorrow, but we weren't able to have you in front of the commission to in any way. It's just kind of unfortunate that we couldn't have let our commission, filled our commission in sooner than we did, because everything now is happening fast, and I feel settled. We're settled today, and I'm clear on where it is that you're saying we should come from and what your suggestions are. Thank you for what you said about the not the freedom of speech, that's not going to be the problem. The remark about the commission being an advisory commission was offensive, but to the commissioners. But again, I am going to vote in favor out of reasons like the mayor mentioned, and because of my understanding of things, and also because it again sounds clear that their freedom of speech is not going to be blocked, and that this changes nothing that they've done. Like, it's not like we can look at these changes and say, oh, they couldn't have done this, that, or this. Like, they can continue work as they do and as they are. And we'll see again that we've not watered them down, but we again needed to get some alignment going for the unfair labor practice. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, do we need a roll call vote on this? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd just like to, just to shorten things, I'll say ditto to Councilmember Watson's comments there. You know, this was a long time coming, and actually had been worked on for years, the commission, and the idea of a police oversight commission. So I'm very, very supportive of its existence. I'll just note that I looked to Eric Williams, who was, I think, the original chair of the commission, and was kind of an architect of this this ordinance. He also has made some suggestions as to changes to the ordinance, but in an email he sent on March 8th, he acknowledged. He said the commission is advisory. Its only real power lies in its ability to develop cogent recommendations, and he went on to say, and for the police department to then respond to those, which is one of the items that I think we need to address in the future. But for those reasons, you know, I'll be voting yes on this motion.
Any other discussion? Do we need a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Please, roll call.
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Brookover.
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Item 4.2, consideration of resolution to approve the non-union schedule of benefits. Ms. Kinney.
Good evening, Council. I'm Emily Kenny, Human Resources Director. Before you is a request to approve the non-union schedule of benefits. Most non-union benefits are identical to the benefits provided to the labor unions that Council has approved through the collective bargaining agreements. You've been provided with details on each benefit, and I'm happy to discuss any specific benefit in detail or answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions from council? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Move approval by Mr. Meadows. Is there a second? I'll second it. Moved and seconded to pass the resolution to approve the non-union schedule of benefits. Discussion,
Yeah, I have some comment on this.
please.
I asked that this be deferred from the last time it was on the agenda because I was concerned about and still am, I confess, about the sort of automatic $300 car allowances for directors that were displayed there, as we had learned after we were elected in November, that these had come about without council approval at some point, probably over decades, apparently, and that I wanted to have some information that would lead me to believe that the $300 amount was correct. We do have car allowances for inspectors and others who are using their cars on a constant basis, and I feel like there we've come up with about $150 a month based on their actual mileage, the work that they're doing. And so we don't appear to have any background information which justifies the $300. So it is a benefit, I think, based on the status of the individuals as the director position, in the director position. And I'll just note that, I think Emily has done a great job of giving us information then following about other communities and how they've operated. And not every director in most of these communities gets this $300. So, I'd be more comfortable if we said up to $300 and not make it for every director. But, at this point in time, I feel a little bit like we have some information at this point so that in the future, if we go forward, we'll be in a better position to evaluate this type of benefit. And so will the city manager. And I want to thank the city manager for making sure that I got the information that I had. I had also asked for any past mileage reimbursement requests, but since we go back about 2 decades of these type of activities, I don't think there's any that is in existence, frankly. So I'm willing to go forward with this at this point in time, but I wanted the opportunity to express my concern with this, and I want to make sure that in the future, when we have this type of benefit, we at least develop the information that's necessary to justify it going forward.
I do have a question. So how are these reported by the employees in terms of their taxes?
It's wages. The car allowance specifically is reported as wages.
Okay, so in effect, they're going to pay taxes on that car allowance, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the only question I have. Any other questions, any other discussion? Go ahead, please.
I'm just curious, under the car allowance as well, you cite director level and non-union employees earn a car allowance, $300 per month. Other positions, both union and non-union, have car allowances in the amount of $135 per month for positions that require a lot of travel. I'm just curious, what is a lot of travel?
There isn't an exact definition, but since we have many different facilities and buildings throughout the city, it's really any position that either internally is going to different city-owned buildings, often like IT for their work, or it could be the housing inspectors or building inspectors who are traveling around the city frequently as a major responsibility of their position as well.
I was just curious if it was like 50 miles a week or like what actually.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't have an exact definition in that way.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to approve the resolution to approve the non-union schedule of benefits, resolution being dated March 19th, 2024? Any other discussion?
Just a comment. I just
Sure.
noticed that the recommendation on the resolution indicates the city manager be authorized to provide the aforementioned benefits to non-union employees which I think does give him certain authority to, in some cases, not do that. So that's how I interpret that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those, it was moved by Meadows, seconded by Brookover. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously, which now moves us to the renumbered item 4.3. Is this the Youth Commission?
Yes.
Is that where we're at now? Okay. Consideration of ordinance 1532, amendments to East Lansing Youth Commission ordinance. Is there a staffer or any questions on this?
I'll move approval of the version of the Youth Commission ordinance that is attached to the agenda that was the result of the March 11th Youth Commission meeting, which was brought forward.
Is there a second?
I can second.
Okay. Moved by Meadows, seconded by Singh. Discussion?
I've got discussion.
Please.
When did the Youth Commission meet for the first time?
For the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Good question. I think it was the January meeting.
January 8th was the first time they met?
Yep.
And did you all try out, like, the parts where the ex officio members were taken out? Did you all have that in place to try out?
There was a discussion of that as of its necessity because it was clear that any one of those individuals could be invited to a meeting to address any issue that the Youth Commission wanted them to. And subsequently, like the city clerk and I think Cliff may have left by now, but Cliff was there to discuss some of the issues that they wanted to have.
So the reasoning was that they could attend if they wanted to. And do you think, yeah, I mean, it takes away the purpose of mentioning the ex officio members, which was to probably encourage their presence. And
Yeah, although I think the feeling was they didn't need a babysitter, so.
respect. A part mentioned 18, and that just should be changed because 18-year-olds can vote. It just said the Youth Advisory Committee is a non-voting group of people, and this is at the top. It says who are of non-voting age, but then it mentions the 14 to 18-year-olds, and
Right.
so I think one of those parts needs to be changed. So the 18-year-old, 14 to 18 is listed as members, and then at the top it changed the description of them.
Can you tell me the section you're looking at?
Sure. So where it mentions 14 to 18-year-olds, it's section 2-505, and it's C, where it says like, and be 14 to 18 years of age.
I think you're looking at the old ordinance.
I am, but I thought the redactions that I see is what's being added. Should I look at the fresher copy?
The C reads, members of the Youth Commission shall be residents of the city, attend a public or private school, or be school of choice students in East Lansing schools, and be 14 to 18 years of age when appointed.
Thank you. So
Yeah, but there was, I'll just note that there was a change requested there because the way it was originally worded, it looked like if you turn 18, you got to drop off the commission. So
Right. So the red marked version does not match
it doesn't.
the final version.
Nope.
That's a hard process to follow, but
Yeah, I know.
okay.
It's confusing.
All right. I think just want to say I'm deeply attached to the Youth Commission because I was part of council when it was originally created. And so a part of me was bothered that we didn't really try it out to me enough to then say we need changes or this is what we see. It was like we changed what the former council did, and if I made some changes and left, I would hope that the current council would try it on at least. And so that's been one of the reasons why I tried to follow what these changes were and what it meant. But anyway, I will, I'll be in support of the Youth Commission changes. It's great to hear what the commissioners thought on the changes, and I just look forward to their presence and attending a meeting sometime.
Yeah, and actually, the way it was worded previously, it was at this last meeting when they were reviewing it again that they added this language about the school of choice students, and one of the members is a school of choice, and it wasn't actually in the original ordinance. So, they've been great.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Mark.
Somebody read me that specific section, because I thought I had delivered to me the latest version.
The 212, is that the one you were?
Yeah, hang on just a second. And what's the number on this ordinance now?
It's 2.510 through 2.518, which was reviewed by the city attorney and recommended.
The first in the packet is the redacted one, and then, or underlined changes, and then the second one is the full redraft, which may or may not help you since I'm on my computer.
Yeah, I have a red line, and then I have one behind that.
Yeah, I forget the red line.
Is that ordinance 1524? Is that the ordinance number?
1532.
Item, it begins at PDF page 8 of 9, the 1532. 1524 immediately precedes it in the agenda item.
Okay, so can somebody now read me section 2.505 paren small c end paren, please?
There isn't on this particular ordinance 2.505.
Can somebody read me the language about the qualifications for a member of the Youth Commission on this version, please?
The Youth Commission shall consist of 9 members appointed by the mayor with the concurrence of council. The term of office of each member of the Youth Commission shall be 1 year, commencing on September 1st, ending on August 31st of the following year. A member appointed after the commencement of a yearly term shall have the appointment retroactively begin on September 1st. A vacancy in any such office be filled at any time during such year by action of the remaining members of the Youth Commission. Members of the Youth Commission shall attend a public or private school within the city and be 14 to 18 years of age when appointed.
And actually, the final line of B actually reads, a vacancy which develops shall be filled in the same manner as set out in paren A above.
Okay, but the next section says members of the Youth Commission shall attend a public or private school within the city and be 14 to 18 years of age when appointed?
Yes.
That's not what I'm reading.
I think
What
some
it-
people
what
are
it
looking at
reads-
1524 and some people are looking at 1532. It should be titled section 2-512. That's the numbering on the final ordinance on 1532.
The one that is before us reads, members of the Youth Commission shall be residents of the city, attend a public or private school, or be school of choice students in East Lansing schools, and be 14 to 18 years of age when appointed.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Can I see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Forgive my confusion. Okay, any other discussion?
Yes, Mayor. It wasn't just your confusion. I think we were all really confused by this process. And this does not look good for a governing body to be trying to figure out what version of an ordinance we're looking at. Something went badly wrong here with the process. We have a track changes version that is inconsistent with the final version. We have multiple numbers. I hope we can avoid this kind of train wreck in the future.
Okay, well, somebody can table this so we can all take a look at what the final version could be, if somebody wants to table it. But are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, I think the next thing we have is the item that was moved down from the business agenda, or excuse me, the consent agenda, approving the establishment of an ad hoc committee for consideration of renaming the East Lansing Aquatic Center and Softball Complex to the Theodore and Carol Staton Aquatic Center and Softball Complex. Dr. Altman, I think you're the one that wanted to pull this down.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I have a couple of comments. I don't have a motion at the moment. I hope that the comments are in order. I'm not sure that this application is in order. Looking at policy resolution 2012-5, section 1.6 provides that the right to name a property may only be requested by and granted to an individual residing in the city or group, organization, or business operating in the city, and the applicant lists an address in Traverse City. So I'm not sure this application is in order. I did want to mention a couple other thoughts that I have about this. I went along with a couple of these park renamings before when I was on council. But my view has changed somewhat. I think that parks and public facilities belong to all of us, not to a single person. And I think that there are better approaches to naming these important resources, and I think Azatica Park is illustrative of that. And so I think we could go about this differently. That's sort of a general comment. If we're going to name parks and public facilities after people, I think we should try to spread the wealth around. I looked at the city webpage listing all our parks. I found 12 parks named for people, 0 of which honor women. And that's 13 out of 13 if you include the Hannah Center. And there's not much wealth to spread because there's a fixed number of these facilities and parks. So I think we're on the wrong track. It clangs, especially in my mind, since we're in the middle of Women's History Month. And so I think that this application is the wrong application at the wrong time. And I will be voting against striking the committee.
I move we defer this matter to our first regular meeting in June, pending a decision or an opinion from the city attorney with regard to interpretation of the policy in terms of who can properly nominate, which also give us time to consider some of the issues raised by Dr. Altman. Do I need a second for that, Mr. City Manager? Is there a second to defer to the first regular meeting in June?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion to defer until the first regular meeting in June is approved by unanimous vote. I think we're done with our business agenda, is that correct? And Mr. Chubb, we need a motion to move into closed session.
That is correct.
Citing the language in the item 5.1, could somebody please make that motion?
I will volunteer to make the motion. I move that we enter closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268 sub 1 sub C to discuss strategy regarding negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement, and pursuant to MCL 15.268 sub 1 sub H to consider attorney-client privilege memoranda that are exempt from disclosure pursuant to MCL 15.243 sub 1 sub G.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Brookover.
Yes. For the audience, we'll adjourn to our closed session room. We'll come back after the closed session to take any further action emanating from the closed session, or no action at all other than to adjourn. Mr. City Attorney, we need a motion to go out of,
To return to open session.
to return to open session. Could I have such a motion, please?
Second.
Meadows moves that we go into open session, seconded by Watson.
Yes.
Is there any discussion? All those, do we need roll call? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion to return to open session passes unanimously. Do we have any other motions?
I move, if I may, to accept the advice of the city attorney related to the Country Mills versus City of East Lansing matter.
Second.
Moved by Altman, seconded by Watson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Meadows, seconded by Altman to adjourn tonight's meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, people.